What's up, guys? Mickle here, and the regulatory environment for cryptocurrencies in the United States might have just flipped on its head. I have never been more confident that Ripple and XRP will move past the SEC and become the dominant cryptocurrency tandem in the United States. But we are starting to see some very concerning new signs around Ethereum and the SEC. I want to show you something that took place just today that I believe raises serious concerns about the SEC going after Ethereum and calling it a security. Guys, I have been someone for the past couple years saying that there is no way the SEC will go after Ethereum. I want to show you what changed my mind today. This is absolutely shocking. You need to see it. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who likes the videos and to subscribe to my channel. These two things really do help me out so much. Also, if you ever need a good place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange Uphold down in the description of this video. With that said, though, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So I want to start out this video and just share with you guys quick why I have never been less worried about the SEC in their case against Ripple. And guys, I've been saying for a while now that the SEC has already lost their case against Ripple, right? XRP is not a security, and right now, Ripple and the SEC are just trying to figure out what Ripple's slap on the wrist is going to be. Now, the funny thing is throughout the entire Ripple SEC case, the SEC's briefs have gotten worse and worse, and what we saw yesterday might have been the SEC's worst brief yet. The SEC is trying to go to the court right now and say, this is why Ripple should be paying $2 billion, a $2 billion fine on their $700 million worth of sales of XRP. For those of you who remember, most of Ripple's sales of XRP were not securities. XRP wasn't a security, but some of Ripple's sales to institutions were deemed securities by the court, and now Ripple and the SEC are trying to hash out what is Ripple's fine for that $700 million worth of sales. Now, the SEC said to the court, Ripple should have to pay us $2 billion. Now, I think that is completely absurd because the SEC only has jurisdiction over the United States. And what we know is a large portion of Ripple's $700 million worth of sales likely took place outside the United States. So realistically, the SEC is only entitled to a fraction of the $700 million Ripple sold to institutions, but they're asking for $2 billion. So right off the bat, you can probably see that the SEC's request here is a little absurd. But wait until you see what they actually put into the case, because it gets even worse. In the SEC's case, right, and we have talked about ad nauseum how the SEC has really failed to bring any evidence to the case. But let me show you the kind of evidence the SEC thinks bringing to the case would be helpful to their position that they deserve $2 billion worth of fines on less than $700 million worth of sales. This right here is an example of the evidence that the SEC is bringing forward. Tweets from the XRP community. And not even tweets that are damning against XRP or Ripple. Take a look at this tweet they put in evidence in the case. It's time to fire Gary Gensler and restructure the SEC. From Warren Davidson. The SEC, as evidence in their case, is bringing forward tweets from sitting congressmen saying that the SEC is completely out of line. The SEC is bringing tweets forward from a sitting congressman that is saying that the SEC is not acting in a faithful allegiance to the law when it comes to cryptocurrencies. I couldn't think of worse evidence to add to my case. Why in the world would the SEC put this in there? It's absolutely shocking. These are the kinds of things that you would never want in your case. Why would you want to make it clear to the judge that, oh, this isn't just retail who is against you, it's not just Ripple who's against you, it is the US government who's against you? This shows that the SEC is completely out of line, and that's the kind of evidence they are showing to the court to try to prove their case. Guys, I have said this a lot on the channel. I think the SEC is lacking a lot of talent. I think the SEC is lost as an agency because to be bringing forward things like this just shows that not only have you lost this case miserably, but you don't even know what you're doing anymore. Guys, I could not believe it when I saw this. I knew I had to bring it to your attention. And what I walk away from seeing this is that most of the lawyers at the SEC, right, have just given up. I mean, they are just throwing whatever forward at this point to try to do something, but the problem is they don't have any direction. They don't have any plan on what they're trying to do. It seems like these poor lawyers at the SEC are being told by Gary Gensler, you keep pushing this case forward, and the lawyers are saying, look, we don't have any evidence. We'll just compile a bunch of random tweets and throw them in the case. Guys, absolutely shocking. I can't even believe this is still being taken seriously, but lets me know that, right, going forward, Ripple has absolutely no issues. And Jeremy Hogan, right, also commented on it. He's saying that based on the SEC's case, based on their briefing, he wouldn't be surprised if they got literally $0 from Ripple. Now, personally, I don't believe the SEC is going to get $0 from Ripple. I believe Ripple's going to pay a slap on the wrist, maybe between $200 million and $50 million. But the important part to note about that is that that's just a small fine for Ripple, right? Ripple has billions of dollars on their balance sheet. They can pay this slap on the wrist fine if it is given to them. And the most important issue is that XRP is not a security and they can still run their business. So in terms of Ripple and XRP in the United States with the SEC, it just doesn't seem like there's much left. I mean, the SEC has no bite to it at this point. They're bringing forward tweets in their case that prove that their case was ridiculous from the start. I just don't see the SEC being an issue for Ripple and XRP going forward. Now, with all that said, something that I do believe is emerging to be a massive issue is the SEC against Ethereum. And let me break this down. For a while, it looked like Ethereum wasn't a security, right? The SEC came out with Bill Hinman, you guys know, and said that Ethereum's not a security. And most of the market took this and ran with it. They said, okay, the SEC said Ethereum's not a security. Well, then everyone who said that disappeared from the SEC and Gary Gensler took over. Since Gary Gensler took over, he has not once said that Ethereum is not a security, right? In fact, he has kind of signaled the opposite. Now, for a while, I didn't think the SEC was going to walk back on these statements, right? I thought it was opening a can of worms that wasn't worth opening. But we are starting to see some facts that are very concerning. One, and probably most importantly, is Prometheum. Prometheum is an exchange that only lists securities who keeps claiming they are working with the SEC and are going to list Ethereum. To me, this seems like the SEC's way of backdoor saying Ethereum's a security, right? What else would it be? Now, the other concerning thing is the CFTC has been coming out now repeatedly and aggressively saying that Ethereum is not a security. Now, you're probably wondering, why does that make me concerned that the SEC is going to call Ethereum a security? Well, the CFTC and SEC are in a regulatory turf battle. And what we saw today is the CFTC taking another massive step to try to counter the SEC. In a case against KuCoin, the CFTC specifically calls Ethereum a digital commodity. Now, I don't think the CFTC would be doing this if it wasn't for the fact that they know there is an impending attempt by the SEC to get Ethereum designated as a security. I think the CFTC understands that Gary Gensler and the SEC are about to start a campaign to go against Ethereum. And guys, that play, that motion by the SEC might already be in full effect. What we found out the other day from Eleanor Terrett was that specific applications and developers around the Ethereum Foundation have already received subpoenas from the SEC. So it looks like the SEC is already gathering everything they think they need to launch an investigation around Ethereum. And this to me is the most important part and the part that really changed my mind. What this investigation is about isn't Ethereum the token. It's against staking, which I believe is the only way the SEC can bring this case forward. The SEC already came out and said that current sales of Ethereum were not securities. The SEC does not want to walk back on that statement. That would be a bad look. But what they can do is come forward and say that staking is a security, and because of that, Ethereum is now a security. Now, this would be a huge issue for Ethereum because, in my opinion, staking does look like a security. You're giving someone your token in hopes for a profit. They're paying you back based on their efforts, right? It's a better case than just a token itself being the security. At least there's something you could kind of wrap into securities law. So the SEC might actually have a decent case there in saying that staking is the security. We also know that in various cases against exchanges, the SEC has settled on charges that made staking sound as a security. So guys, I think this could be a huge problem for projects whose consensus mechanism is around staking. I think this could be a huge problem for Ethereum, and this could be the SEC's checkmate move to move past their loss against Ripple, move past their loss against XRP, and try to get jurisdiction over the large portion of the industry by going after staking. Now, guys, to me, this back and forth from the SEC and the CFTC, alongside the SEC specifically contacting parties around the Ethereum Foundation, and this whole thing with Prometheum is leading me to think that the SEC's next step is going to be after Ethereum and staking. Guys, if this did happen, and I am not cheering it on to happen at all, I hold Ethereum, I don't want to see it happen. I think it would open the door for Ripple and XRP to be the chosen platform for a lot of what we're seeing, a lot of this new financial system to be built on. If Ethereum really is wrapped up in a case alongside all other staking tokens on whether or not that staking is a security, guys, consensus mechanisms like the XRP ledger that don't use staking are going to have a green light via the case Ripple has already won. Guys, I don't want the XRP ledger to win via regulatory arbitrage. I don't want the XRP ledger to win because all these other chains are being held up by the SEC. But I am just pointing out the fact that things have never looked better for Ripple and XRP, and things are starting to look very hairy when it comes down to the staking cryptocurrencies. Guys, we're going to have to keep our eyes on this, but what we know is behind the scenes, Ripple has never stopped making progress. But guys, what we found out was behind the scenes, Ripple never stopped making progress. We learned in the SEC's new filing that since the Ripple SEC case is launched, Ripple has made over 80 new contracts involved with actually distributing XRP, and significantly more since the case was over. Guys, Ripple is banging on all cylinders right now. It seems like the rest of the industry is about to be held back. Let's cross our fingers and hope that it can win, but things have never looked better for Ripple and XRP. Guys, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe. It really does mean so much. And for now, Mickle out.